Good afternoon. This is your host, Michael J. Long, host of Michaels Libertarian Pizza Party at 12:28 p.m. on July the 23rd of 2021. And thank you for joining me. I truly and sincerely appreciate it. And you're listening to 1080 FM. So to begin if you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe link, hit the notification bell, and select all, so that way you'll be notified when I go live or when I upload a new video. And if you want to find my YouTube channel, the link is listed above, https www.youtube.com/c/ Michaels Libertarian Pizza Party. Don't forget about the subscribe link, because that, if you want to be notified, that is. All right. So that's aside. That's what I wanted to start out with that, and then I want to make a response to. Well, first of all, I want to encourage more feedback for the YouTube videos. So please feel free to comment. And like, comment, share, that's a big thing. And also, please feel free to subscribe so you don't miss out on anything. If you like what I have to say, and that and all that. So, just how effective is our foreign policy, right? So that's what I want to start out with. Our foreign policy. How effective is it? Are we achieving what we want to achieve with it? Probably not. Definitely not, if you think about it. And, that's what I want to start out saying. Our foreign policy is pathetic. And let me start out by saying this. Because now we're in the Biden administration. And just to be clear, Biden was the vice president to Obama for the 8 years that Obama served as president of the United States, right? And now he's president. We've had 4 years of Trump, 8 years of Obama, and I think 8 years of Bush, if I'm not mistaken. 4 years of Trump. So this country got fed up with Trump and was like, nah, we don't want him. So anyways, but what I noticed is a lot of the same policies that Trump advocated for and supported, like our foreign policy being one of them, and the way we treat people, our quote unquote detainees, and who we regard as enemies, first of all, and we torturing anybody in any secret prison or jail is unacceptable under any level of government, whether it be international, local, state, county, or even the federal government for that matter. Nobody should be applying such, if and look at it like this. If it's not okay for ISIS or any terror organization that we go after to torture in an inhumane manner anybody who they regard as quote unquote the infidel or whatever, then why is it suddenly okay for us to do it? And we sit there and call it enhanced interrogation techniques, which is really actually the politically correct term for torture on the Republican side of things. If they sit there and say, oh, we don't favor political correctness, yeah, you do if you're going to sit there and call torture enhanced interrogation techniques, because it's basically the same thing, and we're not getting our tax dollars worth of intelligence out of it, right? We're paying for it, yet it's classified top secret. We don't even know what information is being extracted from it, or yet alone how effective it really is. And to summarize it, it's not really all that effective, you know. And there are other ways to extract information, right? There's this thing called, if you're in a foreign country and you're fighting a war, since, when you're dealing with POWs or whatnot, you want to get a load of intelligence out of them, right? So you want to have as much knowledge and information prior to that from what you've researched as possible. You want undercover agents that befriend a lot of these people, and you want them to be friends because you get more information out of it compared to just, oh, we're going to torch the crap out of you. And then when someone has information within these cells about this, that, and the other thing, they're going to be too afraid to give us a response on what's going on, because we're just going to accuse them of being the enemy, and we're going to sit there and torture them if they don't espouse information, and they're going to lie to end the torture, and we're going to be back at square one. So to summarize it, the so-called enhanced interrogation methods under the Patriot Act, it's completely ineffective. It doesn't work. We don't get hardly any intelligence out of it, because it's just going to lie to end the torture of what they're, or any kind of torture that they have been receiving, whether it's being chained up to a wall, being waterboarded, or force fed, or starved, or whatever the case may be, right? And they will say anything to end the torture because they don't want to be tortured. It's a innate human nature ability of people to say, yeah, this is what's going on. They tell us anything we want to hear. And we all can automatically accuse them of doing this, that, and the other thing. And they'll automatically admit that they did this, that, and the other thing just to end the torture. Yet the real people that are going out there oppressing these cities, towns, and villages in these foreign countries that we've invaded, right? We don't know anything about them, or anything about people wanting to harm our country, because again, we've completely forced people to admit to things they didn't do because we've tortured them. So in a sense, we get zero intelligence out of it. And they even train special forces on this. When you're captured by the enemy, you say nothing. If they shoot and kill you, and they, they're still not going to get any information out of you, right? So if we're training our own special forces and troops that if you don't surrender and give information about your forces, right, and they shoot and kill you, that's good, because they still won't get any information, and that they're going to use that to scare you. If we're given that type of information to our own forces, then isn't it obvious that threatening people, torturing people, and all this other stuff is completely ineffective? Isn't it obvious? We're telling our own troops that if they've surrendered to the enemy, not to give them any information, even if it means they're going to get their heads blown off, because if you're dead, they won't get any information out of you. And if you're alive and you don't say anything, they won't get any information out of you, right? We always tell them that in training, right? Or our so-called instructors or whatnot. Now, I've never been in the military, but based upon documentaries that I've seen and research I've done, apparently that's kind of what they say to the so-called special forces and troops. So we know that, that kind of method doesn't work, or what we regard as enhanced interrogation techniques. So pointing a gun at, any enemy and saying, give us this information or we're going to kill you, or give us this information or we're going to torture you, or give us this information or we're going to do this, that, and the other thing. It doesn't work. It's completely ineffective, and we get zero intelligence out of it. And moreover, Guantanamo Bay, being in the middle of Cuba, with whom the Biden administration just enhanced with more sanctions, right? So we're putting more sanctions on their government on top of the fact that we've had a trade embargo against Cuba since the Kennedy administration with the Cold War in the late 60s, or however long it was that we put in the 60s. Basically in the 60s, the Kennedy administration put a trade embargo through Congress on Cuba, right? And we talked with the Soviets to get rid of the Cuban missiles in Cuba, yet we still have the trade embargo on them, right? And now we're putting more sanctions on them. Now, keep in mind, Trump's not even president anymore. So why are the people that are still in Guantanamo Bay being tortured by our own military and CIA troops and, the prison guards and whatnot? What the hell is Julian Assange doing in Belmarsh prison in Great Britain? And how come we're trying to sit there and have him extradited through an appeal process in the international courts and whatnot? This is absurd. If anything, the United States should pardon Julian Assange with the cooperation of the British government, and allow him to go back to, allow him to meet with, um, you know, routers or whoever he was going to meet with in Britain, allow him to go back to Australia, whatnot, you know, but no, we got him in Belmarsh because, or they do, the British government, and we're sitting there, we want him extradited, or at least our government does, because he published war crimes committed by the U.S. military, gunning down innocent, unarmed civilians in the middle of Iraq with an Apache helicopter. At least that's what I garnered. And so, the United States federal government doesn't care about free press, doesn't give a damn about how, we treat so-called detainees or POWs of war, which actually should be allowed to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the fullest extent of the law, and prosecuted, right? If they're innocent, they go on their merry way. If they're guilty, they go to AMX Florence or some federal prison. They serve out however long they have to be there for whatever kind of violence they imposed. They should be prosecuted with the fullest extent of the law through the jury, through a jury trial, through a jury of their peers, right? And so forth. And the idea that we're keeping people, most of whom have not been charged with terrorism, and just indefinitely detaining 90% of the people there, and then sitting there saying, well, they have no rights because they're terrorists. How do we know that? We don't know half the people there. And yet we torture the crap out of them. We give them medication that, by force, that we don't even know if there's severe side effects to. And we have these doctors running around there approving them for this, that, and approving methods for this, that, and the third. I don't know what goes on. And it's in Cuba, no less. Yeah, we have trading in bar, and this is the whole point. We're allowed to have a secret prison in Cuba where we torture people who have not been charged, 90% of whom have not been charged with terrorism or any particular international offense against the United States or other foreign countries, where imminent danger, force, or fraud was being imposed upon, and most particularly terrorism, right? They're not even being charged with that. They're being held indefinitely in the middle of a country that we've had a trade embargo on for the past 60 years, with whose people are starving to death and have a shortage of food, clothing, medicine, etc., because we refuse to trade with the people of that country, and so forth. So think about that. Think about how absurd that is. That we would sit there and say, oh, we're allowed to have our secret prison there, but by the way, you're not allowed to challenge that or freely trade with other countries around the world because we've deemed you a big bad threat. But apparently they're not that threatening considering we have a secret prison there. That's pathetic. And nobody in that country knows it exists but us. That's absurd. And we're not giving the Cuban regime any money for it. We got it there. And this is the other thing. We have military bases all over the world. We have the Navy spread out all over the world. Our Navy, our military bases, our aircraft carriers, our resources. And we have a trade embargo nonetheless, I think, on Lebanon and Iran and China. We have turfs and all this stuff like we do with Russia. If these countries trade with each other, oh, we got to steal your oil and resources from the countries you're trading with. We got to seize your ships because it's not allowed and this and that. This is imperialism, at least, and here in the United States, it's brought to you in part by people elected, most particularly Democrats and Republicans, because all they care about, this happened under the Trump administration, this happened under the Bush administration, this is happening under the Biden administration. Our foreign policy and the way we treat people is atrocious. And then when we're being mistreated, it's don't give them any information. Well, what do you think they're going to do when we're sitting there torturing them for the past however many days and years? The same exact thing. Don't give them any information. If they torture you, tell them you did it, right? That's basically what they're already doing. And then we got to spy on everyone's cell phones and social networks when the real bad guys are going to turn around and use exposable phones to get a new one every time so that we can't track them. Get a new laptop every time, get a new computer every time, or use VPNs or whatever so that they cannot be tracked, so that they cannot be traced, And here we are, because here's the deal, right? The people that hijacked the planes on 9/11, surprise, surprise, most of them were from Saudi Arabia. Okay? And we allowed them into the country to take flying lessons, even though and I'm not saying everybody that immigrates to the United States from Saudi Arabia is bad. But we had prior intelligence that the people that came here that hijacked the planes were specifically from Saudi Arabia and under the command of Osama bin Laden, and there's a whole bunch of conspiracy theories about that. I can go on and on and on about that. And for the most part, I have with my prior past videos. If you care to even watch them. But the point is, we're no more safer with this so-called method of bigger and bigger government than we were when this whole war on terrorism started. And it's been going on for eons and made worse by our own foreign policy that should be addressed. And this is why I say we should vote for the Libertarian Party, guys, because the Libertarian Party will not have the kind of foreign policy that we currently have under the Democratic and Republican administrations and parties. All right? It's just not going to happen with the Libertarian administration. We're not going to be at war with all these countries under a Libertarian administration like we are under the Democratic or Republican administration. And the foreign policy that we have, again, is disgusting, hasn't prevented anything, it's completely ineffective, and all it does is just makes the military-industrial complex bigger and a whole lot richer. All right? And if people really care about Iraq, then they can form a private army and deal with ISIS themselves. In that country or in Syria. But as far as the United States federal government is concerned, maybe the United States federal government needs to start minding its business with regards to what goes on in other countries. And instead of getting militarily involved, let's trade with every single country from around the world and let the consumers decide who they want to do business with and who they don't. Let people immigrate here. Quit playing games with people's lives in terms of who can immigrate here, who can't, and give every single one of the people in Guantanamo Bay a trial for whatever it is they're being held for, and close down Guantanamo Bay, close down the military bases in all the other countries, bring our troops home. And instead, let's freely trade. Let's allow our people and people from other countries to freely trade with us. Let's allow people to come here legally and create let's allow people to come in to create small businesses, big companies, whatever they want to create, so that they can create jobs for us, so that they can better themselves and their loved ones, and so that we can, have a much better economy. And while we're at it, let's get rid of the printing presses and get rid of the Federal Reserves and replace the income tax with the fair tax, and get to a point where we can transition the funding of Social Security, including Medicaid and Medicare, via private contributions. And more importantly, let's get rid of let's end all these wars that we're in. Let's end the drug war, legalize the drugs and the marijuana, right? Let's actually make a difference in let's get out of the way as much as we can and let people make their own decisions, their own choices. That's where we should be at. If we, whatever, right? And more specifically, you know, that's our foreign policy needs to change. We should be a a country that freely trades with other countries around the world, that freely allows people to immigrate here that want to be productive and help out with our economy. All right. And that's pretty much everybody that comes here, legally and illegally, right? You know, and anybody that wants to impose danger, force, or fraud to others, we prosecute them and we send them back to where they came from, right? If that's what the penalty calls for, provided they've been prosecuted and tried by a jury of their peers and found guilty. Provided they're allowed to have a lawyer, and provided we have our prosecutors say they did this, and here's the evidence, and blah, blah, blah. Right? Then we allow the jury to make their decision on whether they're innocent or guilty. And if they're guilty, they go bye-bye. They go back to where they came from, right? Well, everybody else should be allowed to come here, should be processed, legalized, and allowed to stay. All right? And we should do that on a case-by-case basis. We should have and in a sense, we should have comprehensive immigration reform that allows people to allow people that want to make a difference in this country, that want to be allowed to stay, that they may stay. And that they can stay, basically. And contribute to better themselves and their loved ones and their children and whatnot. And, let Iraq deal with that. Let the Iraqi government deal with Iraq. Let the British government deal with Britain, and maybe we should be allowed to freely trade with whoever we want from wherever in the world we want. Instead of and that's the thing. We should not be in a position to be picking a fight with China or Russia or any other country that our president or Congress feels is inappropriate or isn't our best ally. Because here's the deal. The consumers can hold China accountable by saying, we're not going to buy your products. They can do that more efficiently and more effectively. Okay? without interference from the federal government. And that will in turn influence China to say, well, maybe we should have a republic or a democracy and treat our people with respect or whatnot, even if it doesn't happen overnight. And I'd much rather have that approach than, oh, let's fire a missile at you because we don't like you. Because we want to be a bunch of racists and say, oh, you have slanted eyes and you got these islands over here. So because you have those slanted eyes, those islands are ours. That's a bunch of garbage. That's BS right from the very get-go and completely racist. In a sense, our foreign policy is racist. It thrives on racism. Yet we're going to turn around and say Latinx and being all inclusive. BS. That's a bunch of garbage because we're not being inclusive when we're bombing other countries and stuff. So we should stop acting like or pretending that we give a damn when we don't. Let's be honest. You know, I'd much rather Latin Americans work out and the Spanish speaking people work out what they want to say in their language compared to a bunch of white American politicians that don't know jack about Spanish, Espanol, if you will, about what people in that group should be called. And I'm not saying Latinx is right or wrong. I'm just saying we need to take a step back and let people be people. That's the important thing. You know? So to summarize it, to summarize what I wanted to say, we should freely trade with other countries around the world. Let people come in from all around the world, you know, and freely trade and create jobs that would better the economy and so forth, right? As long as they're not committing any victim, as long as they're not committing any crimes that involve a victim, then we should be good with that, right? You know, let's bring all the troops home. Let's close down all the foreign military bases. You know, if that's the kind of agenda if that's the kind of agenda you want and you support, you know, don't support politicians or political parties that don't give a damn about you. Go out and outvote the people that want to sit there and shove a Democrat or a Republican down our throat because the media said so. All right? Those people need to be outvoted. Therefore, more people need to vote and vote for the Libertarian Party, in my opinion. And I'm not saying go out and vote Libertarian, but that, in my opinion, that would help a lot, okay, to dismantle the ineffectiveness of our foreign policy and regime policies and so forth. All right? And more important, and so that's what I wanted to touch base on. Our foreign policy, our trade policy, and some of our domestic issues. I think we should be very weary of what's going on at the international level. I mean, at the federal level. We should bring the troops home. I think it's high time we support the Libertarian Party. I think it's high time we get someone in there that really cares about this country and its people, and not trying to create enemies, not trying to create division and all this other garbage. So, with all that said, I'm Michael J. Long at 12:57 p.m. and thank you for listening to me, the infinite famous Michael J. Long, host of Michaels Libertarian Pizza Party on 1080 FM. Thank you. I truly appreciate it.